and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of these islands and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. And this we beg in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen. Item number 2, the confirmation of minutes of the 5th of November, 2021. Senator Michelle Simmons, Vice President, you have the floor.
Good morning, Madam President
Good morning.
and fellow senators. Madam President, I move that the minutes of the meeting of Friday, the 5th of November, 2021 be taken as read.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection, Senator Simmons.
Madam President, I move that the minutes of Friday, the 5th of November, 2021 be confirmed.
Is there any objection to the confirmation of the minutes? No, the minutes are confirmed. Thank you, Senator
Thank
Michelle
you.
Simmons. Item number 3, messages.
No messages, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Sumner. Item number 4, reports of committees. There are none. Item number 5, announcements. I've had the pleasure. Yeah, it's my- Yeah, sorry. Senators, I wish to announce that in accordance with the provisions of Section 13 of the Audit Act 1990, a public interest report by the Auditor General on the Government of Bermuda's response to COVID-19, the Unemployment Benefit Administration, dated October the 2021st, has been produced by the Office of the Auditor General and submitted to the Honorable House of Assembly, and that the said report is hereby tabled in the Senate for the information of senators. Senators, you may access a copy of the report on your tablets or the parliamentary website. Item number 6, notices of motion. We have a notice of motion, and that will be in the name of Junior Minister of Health, Senator Ariana Hudson, on the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Number 6 Act. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I hereby present for the consideration of Senate the draft order entitled the Public Health COVID-19 Emergency Extension Number 6 Order 2021, proposed to be made by the Minister responsible for health under the provisions of Section 107A of the Public Health Act 1949. And I give notice that at a later point in this meeting, I will move that the said draft order be approved.
Thank you, Senator Hudson. Item number 7, petitions. There are none. Item number 8, statements. I have a few. The first one, the Bermuda National Youth Policy, and that's in the name of Senator the Honorable Dr. E.G.V. Peets, Minister of Youth, Culture, and Sport. You have the floors.
Thank you, Madam President, and good morning to fellow senators. Madam President, the 2020 throne speech committed government to developing a national youth policy to support, empower, and engage Bermuda's youth. Madam President, the development of the strategy included extensive consultation with a wide range of stakeholders, including youth representatives from a number of organizations. Today marks the launch of a policy aimed at providing an overarching, high-level positioning, outlining the goals that we wish to uphold as a country in respect to our youth. Madam President, the policy is now available for download at www.youthpolicy.bm. Madam President, the vision of the policy is to develop and empower Bermuda's youth, and its mission is to form a unified approach to tackle issues faced by Bermuda's young people and provide them with the support to have a positive and productive future. Together, they set the direction of travel for the way that the government will approach our youth and foster their engagement in issues that affect them. Specifically, the policy outlines the policy goals and objectives we intend to pursue alongside community, government, and private partners to achieve and engage an active youth whose voices are heard and help mold the future of our country. Madam President, the National Youth Policy sets out 8 specific goals for Bermuda's young people. They include, number one, to keep young people safe and protected from harm. Number two, achieve full potential in learning, development, and education. Three, to minimize antisocial behavior. Four, to increase employment entrepreneurship opportunities. Five, to engage youth in sport, culture, and recreation. Six, support young people to be active and healthy. Seven, enable participation in civic engagement. And eight, encourage diversity and inclusion. I hope you will agree that these goals and the objectives outlined in the policy itself cover the full breadth of issues that are fundamental to the continued development of Bermuda's youth, and that achievement of these goals will ensure that we create a better future together. Madam President, the next step in the process is to establish a working group that will drive implementation and ensure activities take place to achieve the objectives and the goals of this policy. The working group will be made up of organizations and individuals from across our community and government who have the authority and the ability to take action and to make the policy goals a reality. Madam President, we wanted, of course, to title this a working group because that's exactly what we expect the group to do, and that is to get to work. The National Youth Policy Working Group will also be mandated to report annually on their progress. Expressions of interest, if you'd like to participate in the working group, are being accepted now through December 17th by going online to forms.gov/youth policy working group. The final composition of the working group will be decided in February of 2022, and the group will commence construction of a detailed plan of actions as well as deliverables. Madam President, Bermuda's future belongs to our young people, and we look forward to the working group's progress and the fulfillment of the policy vision and mission through implementation of these 8 goals. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Minister Peets. The second statement is the Ministry of Labor Throne Speech Initiative 2021, and that is in the name of Senator Ariana Hudson, Junior Minister for Labor. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, as stated in the 2021 speech from the throne and in line with Bermuda's economic recovery plan, the Ministry of Labor will focus its efforts on introducing a digitized immigration application process and the implementation of the youth employment strategy. Madam President, the government will implement a digitized immigration application process that directly aligns with the core immigration reform strategic priority to leverage technology to improve operations, leading to greater levels of efficiency, process consistency, and sustainability. The Department of Immigration is tasked with optimizing core processes and modernizing existing systems, including a rigorous process re-engineering review on the services offered by the department with the goal to eliminate the excessive use of paper, reduce the volume of data entry, increase turnaround times, provide analytical and performance data, improve customer and stakeholder communications, provide a platform for auditing and quality management, and eliminate the submission of incomplete applications. The Ministry of Labor will enhance Bermuda's competitive edge by introducing a digitized immigration application process to improve the delivery of services and ensure that the existing manual immigration process does not hinder the specialized talent required to grow Bermuda's economy further. Madam President, the November 2020 Labor Force Survey report placed the youth unemployment rate for persons 16 to 26 years of age at over 32%. To put this in perspective, 1 in 3 young persons of working age are unemployed. The youth employment strategy is meant to meet the identified needs of unemployed persons between the ages of 18 through 26 and guide unemployed Bermudian youth to employment or to return to the workforce. This government is committed to developing a resilient workforce that provides a sustainable and stable community by supporting training and helping to facilitate employment for all young people. To that end, the Department of Workforce Development is working to implement a youth employment strategy which aims to prepare Bermuda's youth for the world of work, positioning them to prepare for and take advantage of job opportunities. The strategy aims to facilitate access to training and employment opportunities for Bermuda's youth, to encourage Bermuda's youth to take advantage of available training opportunities, provide career guidance and resources for Bermuda's youth, to support access to work experience opportunities such as internships, training, and apprenticeships, motivate Bermuda's youth to develop the highest level of proficiency in their chosen field, promote training and employment opportunities locally before resorting to overseas recruitment, and ensuring that qualified and competent young people are provided opportunities for development and growth to support promotion within their chosen careers. Young people's economic success is rooted in their ability to secure a sustainable livelihood through productive work. Participating in Bermuda's workforce will empower and enable our young people to contribute to Bermuda's growth and prosperity. Madam President, the people of Bermuda have entrusted this government to lead, and the initiatives featured in the speech from the throne will form part of the Ministry of Labor's priorities over the next year. Over the last 18 months, it has become clear that we cannot continue to do the things in the way we have always done them. We must continue working together and using lessons learned from our past, as well as the current crisis, if we are to ensure the future well-being of Bermuda. Through our National Economic Recovery Plan, the government will take decisive action to restore consumer and business confidence and to stimulate our economy, creating a clear path to growth and employment. The policies highlighted today aid Bermuda in minimizing the adverse effects of the global pandemic. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Hudson. The third statement is the St. George's Marina development, and that is in the name of Senator Owen Darrell, Junior Minister for Public Works. You have the floor, Senator Darrell.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, this morning I would like to provide the Senate colleagues with an update on the St. George's Marina Development Project. Madam President, during the convening of Parliament, senators would have heard mention in the speech from the throne that the legislature will consider in due course a strategic plan for the town of St. George, which will include consultation with all relevant stakeholders and will represent the best means by which to raise the fortunes of the old town in the wake of the renewal opportunity presented by the new St. Regis Hotel and the St. George's Club that is currently undergoing renovations. Madam President, a key component of this revitalization in the town of St. George's for the residents and visitors alike will be the development of a new marina on Ordnance Island. This new development is being undertaken by private developers, the St. George's Marina Development Limited, which I'll refer to as the developer, in conjunction with the Corporation of St. George in a private-public partnership. With the upgrades to Ordnance Island dock, Ordnance Island will now have the ability to berth yachts up to the super yacht class, as well as cruise ships. The arrangement will see the corporation leasing land to the developer for 21 years less a day, and sharing of the gross proceeds of the marina revenue. The new marina will boast improved and designated dock areas for visiting yachts, a newly replaced and repaired dock on the south side of Ordnance Island, 650 linear feet of visiting dockage for smaller yachts, 10 stern to berths for super yachts with mooring systems, marina reception, lounge, food and beverage, and internet cafe, duty-free fuel dock, and the installation of a sewage pumping service. Madam President, in order for these infrastructure developments to fully function, the wharf at Ordnance Island, constructed many decades ago, needs to be replaced. With the assistance of the Department of Works and Engineering and the Corporation of St. George, engaged the services of structural engineers, Brunel Limited, who performed an initial inspection of the wharf on March 2021. Brunel estimated that the refurbishment cost would be $2.2 million. However, after a more detailed survey was performed, it was determined that the piles were so deteriorated that they could not be reused as originally hoped, with the replacement cost increasing to $2.7 million. Madam President, to ensure this project comes into fruition, the Ministry of Public Works has committed $1.5 million to the refurbishment of the wharf for this fiscal year. Additional funding will be sourced from the Corporation of St. George's, who have the ability to make up the difference using the UNESCO World Heritage Fund, which is to be used to develop and promote the World Heritage Site. With funding secured, the replacement of the wharf is now poised to take place. Madam President, work on the new wharf is slated to take place on February of 2022, following the tendering process. The work is estimated to take some 4 months to complete, with the wharf ready in May of 2022. In addition to the wharf upgrades, the marina infrastructure undertaken by St. George's Marina Development Limited is currently underway and is slated to be completed in conjunction with the wharf. These works include internal renovations of the former terminal building on Ordnance Island and a welcome center complete with a shower and laundry facilities. The space will be redesigned for an improved decor and to create an outdoor lounge area. Madam President, with the opening of St. Regis Hotel in May and the planned reopening of the St. George's Club in the second quarter of 2022, and the new marina scheduled for completion in May of next year, these developments are expected to provide a further economic boost into our historic town and be of great benefit to all Bermudians and residents alike. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Darrow. You have a second statement. Steps taken to launch the PMOs to support implementation of the Economic Recovery Plan. You can proceed when you're
Thank
ready.
you, Madam President. Good morning again, Madam President.
Good morning.
I rise today to inform the Senate of the progress made towards the implementation of Bermuda's Economic Recovery Plan, known as the ERP. Madam President, members of the Senate will recall the tabling of Bermuda's Economic Recovery Plan by the Minister of Finance in March of this year and the subsequent debate on its contents. As a reminder, the government undertook a three-phased approach to the development of the Economic Recovery Plan. Preparatory work in Phase 1 involved identifying the objectives, the guiding principles, and preliminary list of initiatives, and was undertaken in July through September of 2020. Phase 2 involved the development of economic models, prioritization of initiatives, and an implementation plan, and took place from October 2020 to February 2021. Phase 3 involved the development of a blueprint economic recovery plan with a detailed plan for effective and efficient implementation with appropriate cabinet oversight. When the plan was tabled in the Senate in March, implementation was already underway across government. Despite the pandemic, ministries and government agencies continue to refine and implement initiatives to support the economic recovery under their areas of responsibility. Madam President, as Her Excellency the Governor shared in the speech from the throne two Fridays ago, the Bermuda Economic Recovery Plan has 31 priority projects in 7 broad categories: economic diversification, financial markets, infrastructure investment, expanding the residential population, labor market and social development, healthcare reform, and regulatory reform. Senators and the public can remain informed about the progress of Bermuda's Economic Recovery Plan by visiting gov.bm/economic recovery on the government portal. The website was updated on Friday to provide the current status of all 31 priority initiatives. During Phase 2, these 31 initiatives were independently confirmed as the projects that will best create economic growth in the short to medium term while meeting the objective of increasing jobs, diversifying our economy, and enhancing Bermuda's infrastructure for the future. Madam President, please allow me to share some updates with the Senate in advance of the new webpage, which is now up and running. Out of the 31 priority projects contained in the ERP, 9 of the 31 projects are already substantially complete. Other projects, such as upgrading Bermuda's water and waste treatment infrastructure, which incorporates replacing the plant and equipment at Tynes Bay, have progressed. This is a high priority infrastructure project for the government. given that the existing plant has now exceeded its useful life. As a result, a cross-ministry team is already in an accelerated path to replace key aspects and key components within the plant in a short term, with the ultimate goal of a fully refurbished and repurposed facility within the next 3 to 4 years. Madam President, another project has progressed, is complete the shoreside facility to process fish caught in Bermuda. A business plan for a fisheries development center is being completed under a steering committee led by the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, and the Fishermen's Association of Bermuda. The plan will consider how such a facility will benefit the public, create opportunities to show a return on government's investment, and offer additional options and cooperative business benefits to participating fisheries. The plan will meet the current and future needs of the fishing industry, put fishers at the center to best control their industry, take into consideration current economic conditions, as well as consider short to long-term fisheries development factors. The consultation thus far has moved the facilities planning from Marginal Wharf to a location in the west end of the island. Madam President, Bermuda's Economic Recovery Plan states to complete work to establish the Uptown Development Authority in Northeast Hamilton, whose mission will be to implement the Northeast Hamilton Development Plan and drive residential development projects in the area. Work on residential developments in Bermuda's economic empowerment zones to increase the supply of quality, affordable residential accommodation, driving down rental costs, has also progressed. Guidelines for submitting applications for approved residential schemes within the economic empowerment zone have been developed by the BDC with the information for the EEZ stakeholders, potential investors, and the general public to be published later this month. Importantly, every approved scheme will create new jobs for Bermudians. Madam President, one of the 31 priority projects reads as follows: use the BDC resources to create an online SME marketplace that will allow entrepreneurs easy access to sell their goods and services online without having to deal with costly individual setups, large monthly fees, and merchant account complexities. This initiative is substantially complete, and on November 29th for eMonday, the online marketplace at www.buybermuda.bm will launch. The platform, aptly named Buy Bermuda, is a local online marketplace where people come together to sell and buy unique Bermudian products and experiences. Madam President, as the world grapples with the impacts of climate change, renewable energy will become an increasingly important part of the global economy. An initiative in Bermuda's Economic Recovery Plan states, develop an energy regulatory sandbox that will encourage developers of new renewable energy technology to test their products in Bermuda, giving Bermudians access to new technology. Madam President, a policy for creating an energy regulatory sandbox has already been produced. During this session, the Senate will consider a bill to facilitate renewable energy technology developers testing their products in Bermuda. Additionally, the government is currently in discussions with a company that will likely be the first applicant for a sandbox license. Madam President, legislation allowing Bermuda to become a hub for submarine communication cables is now in effect, with a plan for implementation developed by the regulatory authority in consultation with the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Bermuda Business Development Agency. This progress fulfills the objective stated in the plan to introduce and establish subsea communication sector in Bermuda, supporting plans to develop a subsea telecommunications protection zone. The regulatory authority of Bermuda is currently fielding inquiries for companies wishing to enter this space. And Madam President, In the area of healthcare, Bermuda's Economic Recovery Plan states, work with pharmacists, hospitals, and physicians to reduce the cost of medications. Legislation to pave the way for the establishment of a national drug formulary was passed by the legislature in the last session to achieve this objective. The Bermuda Health Council, using recommendations from the Pharmacy and Therapeutics Committee, will regulate the prices at which common essential medications, along with associated products and devices used in medical treatments, are sold to the public, thereby reducing the largest out-of-pocket health expenditure for a large segment of our community. Madam President, coordination of implementation across the 31 diverse initiatives contained in Bermuda's Economic Recovery Plan is being led by a team within the Cabinet Office reporting to the Cabinet Committee on Economic Development. The successful execution of these initiatives will ensure the island is appropriately prepared to recover economically and socially as we move beyond the COVID-19 pandemic. Strong quality assurance, governance, and monitoring processes are essential to this effort. The plan always intended that these functions would be undertaken by resources operating separately from those engaged in the day-to-day running of government. Madam President, against the backdrop and with the assistance of the Bermuda First, the government engaged with the Big Four consulting firms to determine the best way forward. Based on these collaborative discussions, KPMG was identified as the resource to launch the PMO. The initial contract, valued at $144,000 plus expenses, was agreed in September and provides a lead consultant with extensive experience in economic recovery. At the conclusion of the KPMG engagement, the consultants will deliver a project management plan complete with resource requirements, key milestones, and timelines, actions, and enablers required to progress the 31 initiatives not yet complete, and a risk management regime to identify, prioritize, and monitor, and where possible, mitigate risk. Upon delivery of the project management plan, further resource decisions concerning the PMO will be determined. Madam President, as was stated in another place when the plan was debated, the PMO will be staffed by government and external resources with specific expertise. This may include a variety of consulting resources from a number of firms in an as-needed basis. The degree of support and expertise will inevitably vary based on the project, and with all initiatives subject to milestones and deliverables. As evidenced by the progress made to date, which the public can view at gov.bm Economic Recovery, ownership of each of the 31 initiatives has been assumed by the respective ministry or government agency as outlined in the ERP. Public officers are focused on finalizing policies and implementing action plans. These steps are central to the project's success, and a mechanism has been put in place to track progress, and the PMO will update the new web page every month. Madam President, while the future remains deeply uncertain given public health conditions and the state of the global economy, Bermuda's Economic Recovery Plan provides a blueprint for a successful recovery. Effective implementation is necessary to ensure Bermuda forges ahead a new path of growth, employment, and greater equity. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Darrell. Moving on, item number 9, introduction of bills. There are none. The first, item number 10, the first reading of public bills. The following public bill has been received from the Honorable House of Assembly and is now read for the first time. Its title is the Cruise Ships Casino Amendment Act 2021. Item number 11, the first reading of private bills. There are none. Item number 13, question and question period. And senators, we will now entertain questions for the statements that have been given this morning. The first one being in the name of the Minister, Minister Peets, who spoke on the Bermuda's national youth policy. Would any senator care to ask any questions? Senator Robin Tucker, you have the floor.
Good morning, Madam President.
Good
Thank
morning.
you. Thank you. I would like to know specifically what age group the policy targets. And I have a second question, if I'm okay to add it.
You may.
Thank you. I would also like to know if there's any plan in the policy to involve parents and educators in the initiative, so there's consistency of messaging and collaborative support for youth. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Robin Tucker. Would any other senator care to ask questions? I see two hands, Senator Smith and
Yes, good morning, Madam President.
good morning.
First, I'd just like to thank the minister. This is obviously an initiative that everyone in Bermuda would want to support, to see that we can do everything we can to support our youth and move them in a positive direction. My question with the excitement of trying to implement this is, one, I think it would be just good for the public if you could repeat the dates and the timeline for getting the information. And the second part, do you have a thought in mind of when we would start to implement maybe the first initiative? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Smith. I believe the Senator Jones, I beg your pardon. I'm just making sure. Senator Jones, you have questions to put to the minister?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Good morning to my fellow senators and good morning to the listening audience. Like my predecessor, I do want to thank the minister for bringing forth this initiative. I think it's something that bodes well for targeting a certain demographic within our community, that being the youth, that need the attention, targeted attention, in order to bring about some good outcomes within this age group. And sort of tagging on behind my fellow senator, Senator Tucker, who asked about parents being involved as part of the working group. My thought was also, will the minister also consider including young people of that age bracket from 18 to 26 to be part of that working group? It's one thing for a group to be planning for a certain category of people to bring about some good outcomes. But I think it will be highly effective if that actually targeted group, age group, could be a part of the working group to add their perspective, to add their experiences. And I think that could bode well to bringing about a very good and effective working group. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Jones. You have Senator Michelle Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And I too would like to thank Minister Peets for bringing this statement this morning. I just have a question about the working group. Since there is an appeal going to members of the public, I think it would be very helpful if the minister could share some of the skills that he's looking for those who would be encouraged to participate in the working group. Also, I trust that the working group will be heavily weighted toward having young people driving this initiative. There might be a temptation to get a number of more senior people involved, but the power of youth when they work together for a common goal, it's incredible. So my question really is, what skill sets are being sought, and what's the balance that the minister's hoping to get in the working group in terms of ages? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Michelle Simmons. No other questions? Then over to Minister Peets.
Yes, thank you. We certainly appreciate as much interest in this particular youth policy that we're getting. So I'm certainly encouraged by the questions today. So thank you, Senators, for your comments. In reverse order, Madam President, regarding skill sets, of course, this is titled the working group. So they're not a committee. This is not a what's another word we can use? This is not a group. This is a working group. So one of the major key skill sets is that we need individuals who are going to be busy getting the work done. The last thing we need, of course, is a policy that sits on a shelf and it really just collects dust and we're not really getting any work done. So we're certainly looking for individuals who are passionate, who definitely have a background working with this particular population, who have an invested interest in this population, but of course, individuals who are dedicated to actually ensuring that the 8 policy goals actually come into fruition. So we're certainly going to need those type of individuals involved in the working group. We certainly are encouraging as many youth organizations to get online, register their interest to participate in the working group by perhaps selecting a designated individual to do that. We certainly want to recognize and make sure that the working group is properly represented by the population in which that we're trying to address. But having said that, of course, we certainly need individuals on the working group who are employed in a position where the decisions that are being made by the working group can be easily implemented as well. So regarding parental involvement, if there are any parent groups out there who are interested in getting involved, we can certainly entertain their applications as well. We certainly would like for representation from the youth parliament, so hopefully they will get involved in the working group as well. I think there was also, I believe, worthwhile indicating some of the dates and how people can actually get involved. So just for redundancy, thank you, Senator Ben Smith, for your question. The expressions of interest for participating in the working group are currently being accepted. And that particular window is open until December 17th. It's online. The web address for the government portal is forms.gov/youth policy. If you go to forms.gov, then you can search in that list and look for the youth policy working group. Click on that link, fill out the information, submit it. It will get to our team, and then we will begin to vet those applications. As I mentioned in the statement, the final composition of the working group will be decided in February of 2022 based on the information that we get submitted from applicants. Of course, if there is a slow uptake, we will do our best to re-communicate this information through whatever media that we need to, because we certainly want this working group to be a very good composition of individuals so that we can actually get the work done. Once we get the working group composition decided, it's our plan to have the working group commence their work in detail starting in February of 2022. Hopefully we can stick to those dates and guidelines so that we can actually get to work very early in 2022. I believe Senator Tucker also asked a question about the policy age. There was a slight amendment to the original CAB memo for this particular policy after consultation with the Minister Tanae Furbert from seniors. And just give me a second, I'll go ahead and get that. The ages are 14 to 24. So by definition, youth is designated in this particular policy to encompass that individual. 14 is what, late middle school, or is that early high school? Early high school through 24. I'll entertain any other further questions if there are any.
Senators, were there any other questions? No? Senator Ben Smith, you,
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Just following on from the response that the minister just gave with that specific target area being 14 to 24, will there be any ability to expand that if the working group, once they start to look into the information, that potentially we need to start younger with some of our young people, specifically when we're trying to guide them so that they are going towards positive activities instead of negative activities. Sometimes you have to start earlier to make sure you're catching them. So just as a question of, will there be the ability to change that later down the road if that's what comes out of the working group? Thank you.
Yes, actually, originally, the original composition for the group was envisioned to start at age 16 through 24, but after some dialogue, that was expanded down to 14. There are different developmental needs across age groups, starting from birth through preschool, and then, of course, in elementary school, there are other developmental issues and considerations. So that particular comment is certainly noted. I can certainly take that under advisement and talk to the working group as well as those at YSR. Perhaps there might need to be a separate policy just for that younger group to make sure that their needs are accurately represented as well. But by the throne speech, of course, we were asked to define what youth meant as it relates to a particular age group. And what was settled upon at the moment is age 14.
thank you. Oh, Senator Robin Tucker, you had two questions. You have a supplement?
Thank you, Madam President. My supplemental question, well, I'm
Third
just,
question.
my third question,
Yes, all right.
thank you, would be, are there plans to attract young people who are not normally involved in sports? So is there a plan to entice young people who are not normally involved in sports to get involved in sports and become members and participants in the youth policy? Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, the youth policy, of course, is overarching. So it encompasses all of the categories that our youth may fall in. If they, of course, are involved in sports, the youth policy has some policy goals and some things to do to support those individuals who are youth who are not engaged in sport, at least from a competitive point of view. One of the policy goals, Madam President, is to ensure that these individuals are not only protected from harm as it relates to being safe, as it relates to whatever activity they're being in, but we certainly want to minimize their antisocial behavior. So one of the policy goals is to make sure that they have a healthy lifestyle. So in the event that they're not actively competing in organized sport, we do understand that not only there's their education and their mental well-being is important, but a part of that whole well-being is to ensure that they have a healthy lifestyle. So as the working group begins to sort of flush out these policy goals, they will be able to do surveys. They'll be able to get into the community, see what the exact needs are in these particular subgroups, and begin to make recommendations to make improvements so that our entire youth population are being supported throughout the government as it relates to education, as it relates to any other part of government, that we are certainly supporting our youth.
Thank you, Minister Peets, and thank you, Senators, for your questions. We'll now move on to the second statement, which is in the name of Senator Ariana Hudson, and that was the throne speech initiatives for 2021. Would any senator care to ask questions? I see Senator Marcus Jones, you have opportunity to ask questions.
Thank you, Madam President. I have taken notes from these first two statements that have been given and presented by Minister Peets and then here by Senator Hudson, that the focus and the targeted demographic has been this this youth age, 16 to 26. And Madam President, I'm a firm believer in policy being data-driven. And with that in mind, my question to the junior minister would be, is there a mechanism in place to gather information from this age group, 16 to 26, either when they are employed in the summer by the government for summer jobs, even when they are preparing to go to university, data in the form of finding out the date of graduation of these young people, their field of study, whether they intend on actually returning to Bermuda. I think that's a very important question because just talking to my son, who lives and works in the UK after just graduating, his contemporaries are not coming back home. They're actually staying in the UK and finding jobs. So as much as this initiative, I think is going to be very good, I believe it's paramount that the government gather the information and the data so they know how to service and to provide the tools for this age bracket to be able to excel within the labor force within the island. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Jones. Do you have a second question or something?
No, that's it.
Thank you. Senator Ben Smith, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. So, Madam President, I'm going to piggyback off of what Senator Jones just referred to when it comes to data and the importance of data, because as I was listening to the junior minister going through the information in this statement, there was the changes to the digitized immigration policy, which I think is going to, everyone's going to say that that'll be helpful for the country to be able to move things in a direction where they're going to be more efficient, things are going to work better. But as we were going through that, I also thought maybe we should be connecting some of these dots. So there's the workforce development portion that was discussed, there's the youth employment that was discussed, and now we're digitizing what's happening from the immigration. So my question is, will we be trying to put those pieces together? So if you're collecting the data on the education of our young people, the job needs of our young people, at the same time that you're collecting the data on what jobs are available in the country, potentially you have work permit holders in certain areas, you know that the timeline is going to be 3 years, but you also know that you have people that are going to be graduating in certain positions or are taking further studies or being developed because of workforce development. By having that data and the ability for the data to be able to be cross-referenced between workforce development, between the youth employment program and what's happening in immigration with all the new technology, I think it would be important for us to know that that is something that we will be trying to do, because if we collect that data, we will be making our decisions based off of the real information. As we move forward and say, oh, we're going to close a specific category, we're doing that because we know that we have 10 young people that are trained to do these jobs, and now we are going to create that opportunity. And we're doing it because we know it by the data that we've collected. So I'm asking the junior minister if that is the process that we're looking towards doing, not just digitizing what's happening from the immigration policy, but also bringing in technology and collecting data in these other areas so that we can know that we're making the decisions based off of the information collected. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Ben Smith. Senator Michelle Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. It's wonderful that we're focusing on our youth, i.e. the future of this country. And my question is about the, I guess, definition for youth in this particular statement, because this labor force survey report embraces persons from the ages of 16 to 26 years. And it notes that over 32% of them were unemployed. My question is, if the compulsory school leaving age is 18 years, as I believe it is, why are we including 16 and 17-year-olds in this unemployment survey? Because technically they should be in school, even if it's not in a traditional school setting, but they should be in school. So I just wondered what the reasoning for that was. Thank you.
Would any other senator? Senator Robin Tucker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. My question for the junior minister is, I'm just curious to know what specific area of having a digitized a digitized application process, what specific area will roll out first? Is that going to impact work permits or personal services? What area of immigration? And I'm wondering about that because I, for several years, have been involved in work permit processes from my day job. And I know that the digitized work permit application process has been spoken about quite some time ago. So I'm just wondering if that's going to be at the top of the list, or is it going to be sort of, all applications will be digitized? Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Tucker. Senator Hudson, when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
To start by answering Senator Simmons' question about why 16 and 17-year-olds, I do want to highlight the fact that only those who are actively seeking employment are included in that rate. And so while I can't speak to the specifics of where they should be, we do take into account those who are actively looking at the time. Regarding the data, of course, any decision that we make starts with our goals, and finding and presenting the relevant data is, of course, the next step. While we haven't necessarily done the greatest with monitoring the data over the years, that is definitely our aim going forward. A key feature of our strategy is, of course, data collection, and we look at data collection on skill sets, career interests, and the like. And it's also worth mentioning, that immigration and the Department of Workforce Development are linked under the ministry. So we are looking to synergize that info sharing. And as we continue to look at the appropriate systems, that is at the forefront of our purpose. With response to Senator Tucker's questions about the specific areas we'll be focusing on immigration, we will begin with the PRC application, and that will be digitized beginning in January. So I hope those are suitable responses to the questions asked.
Senator Simmons has a second question.
It's a supplementary.
Supplementary. All right.
I hear that data is being collected, and just because it makes me a little unsettled to know that 16 and 17-year-olds are out there seeking, I assume, full-time employment, I wondered if Senator Hudson could either now or at a later date give us a number for how many 16 and 17-year-olds are actually actively seeking employment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Simmons. Senator Robin Tucker, you have a second question?
No,
Also-
Madam President, I have a supplementary
Supplementary.
question. Just in response to Senator Hudson's answer about beginning with the PRC applications, I'm wondering when work permit digitized application processes will be available. As we know, there are significant delays in immigration and responses to work permit applications. So if there is an opportunity, as what we are hearing about here with the digitized application process and the resulting in increased turnaround times, I'm sure the business community would be very happy to know. I certainly would be, again, in my other role. to know when we can expect that work permit application process to be digitized. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Robin Tucker. Yes, Senator Hudson.
Thank you, Madam President. I will endeavor to find out how many 16 to 17-year-olds are currently seeking employment. I'm actually interested myself to know. And then regarding Senator Tucker's comments, there is no set date at this time, but obviously it is one of those things we've been working on. And I know that there are many industries who are, of course, looking forward to the day when these applications will be fully digital. And so as soon as we know, I'm sure you'll know shortly thereafter.
Thank you, Senator Hudson, and thank you, senators, for your questions. We'll now move on to the third statement that was given this morning, and that was from Senator Darrell, Junior Minister of Public Works, and relates to the St. George's Marina development. Would any senator care to ask questions on this statement? Yes, Senator Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I am sure that all of the East End is cheering and excited about this marina coming on board, and I'm going to add my celebration as well. I noticed on page 2 of the presentation that the Junior Minister presented this morning, under the new marina will boast, under section 7, it says the installation of sewage pumping services. The only question I would have in conjunction with that particular item, now we all know that the town of St. George has had a major challenge with its sewage removal, which has, in my understanding, been a challenge that is going to be taken up by a private-public partnership between the hotel owners that are further away from the square and the government itself. I just wonder if the Junior Minister can address that for the senators here and the listening audience to see what's the status of the developments of a refurbished or redeveloped sewage removal system within the town that will extend also to the new hotels that are there in St. George's. If he can, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Jones. Would any other senator care to ask a question? Senator Michelle Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I cannot let an opportunity pass me by to ask a question about this statement because it involves St. George's.
Mhm.
Excitement is building in the old town because the marina seems as though it's closer to becoming a reality. Therefore, my question is regarding the second paragraph on page 1, where it says that the legislature will consider in due course a strategic plan for the town of St. George. Just because we are excited, but also somewhat anxious, I wondered if the Junior Minister could give us any more of an idea of when that strategic plan will be advanced, even if it's a kind of timeline to give us a sense of it also becoming a reality. Because there have been lots of promises in the past and sometimes they don't materialize. But I'm delighted to see that the marina is going to happen. And we'd just like to know a bit more about a timeline for the strategic plan. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Senator Michelle Simmons. Would any other senator care to ask questions on this statement? Hearing none, then it's over to you, Senator Darrell.
For the first question, and like I said, the question that Senator Jones asked, and I know he tried to connect them, but point 7 of this statement specifically talked about the installation of a sewage pumping services at the marina. But I will answer this question about sewage. The sewage treatment for St. George is actually being developed by the Bermuda Land Development Corporation. And they will be the ones putting forth a new sewage plant. So point 7 that you're referring to is actually only about the pumping services at the marina. The entire infrastructure of St. George's will come under the Bermuda Land Development Corporation. And the second question to Senator Simmons is, hope will come as good news to her, is that the plan is going to engage a number of stakeholders. And I have been told by public officers that the early meetings will actually start in a matter of weeks. So I hope that will bring some joy to members in this place who are from St. George's and everyone in the East End, as this is, as said in the statement, an exciting time for St. George. Thank you, Madam
Senator
President.
Darrow.
Supplemental, Madam President?
Yes.
I thank the Junior Minister for giving that information in regards to the overall sewage waste removal work that's going to be done by the BRDC. Would he happen to have a timeline in which that will be completed? The only reason I ask that is because I know it's been an ongoing project from the blueprint planning stage to actually being implemented. It's been a couple of years now. I think the residents in St. George's would be, as well as the owners of the hotel, would be interested to know the timeline in which this project will be completed.
I actually would say that that actually is the same question I asked to Senator Simmons, that in a course of weeks, all stakeholders will be engaged. And I'm sure the sewage and all other matters will come up in the strategic plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Darrow. That completes questions on the third statement, and we'll now move on to the fourth statement, which is also in the name of Senator Darrow, and that is the steps taken to launch the PMO to support implementation of Bermuda's Economic Recovery Plan. Would any senator care to ask questions on this statement? Senator Robin Tucker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. My question, actually, I have a couple of questions. My first question is, given the 31 projects, I would like to know what the estimated number of full-time jobs is anticipated to be created. I certainly can appreciate that, the number won't be down to as accurately as, we would like, but given the number of projects and the statement that there will be jobs created, then I'm just wondering whether the junior minister can just give some kind of estimate on the numbers of jobs that are anticipated, full-time jobs that are anticipated to be created. My second question is, as it relates to a sentence in the statement on page 3, the second paragraph from the top, just the very last sentence, which says every approved scheme will create jobs for Bermudians. So while I'm taking that as a broad statement, I am just wondering whether there will be jobs that will require non-Bermudians to do because we don't have the expertise on the island to carry them out.
That's your second question. You have a
Yes,
third.
that's my second question. And my third question is very much related, I guess, which is what area of the 31 initiatives is anticipated to create the largest number of jobs? Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Robin Tucker. Would any other senator care to ask questions on this statement? Senator Ben Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, my question is in regards to the changes in implementing a way to lower the cost of prescription drugs, because I know that in a country with a significant population that has to take prescription drugs on an ongoing basis, that a lot of people are going to be interested in knowing what that number is. So before the government went down the path of making the changes, there would have been some dialogue on what the potential reduction in these costs would be. So I'm wondering if the junior minister can give us an estimate in what the reduction in the, as he put, the drugs that are used quite often, where bulk purchases potentially are going to reduce the cost. Has there been an initial look at what that reduction will be? And if he knows what that is, can he share that with us? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ben Smith. Would any other senator care to ask questions on this fourth statement? Hearing none, then it's over to you, Senator Darrow.
Thank you, Madam President. And I thank Senator Tucker and Senator Smith for their questions. As I stated in the beginning of the statement, right now it's not possible to provide the exact number of jobs. I will say this, that we do expect it to be significant. And the reason why we haven't gotten to that point yet is because in the statement I did outline that we are doing this in a 3-phase process. We're only in phase 1, which, as I said, is the bottom paragraph here, involves identifying objectives, the guiding principles, and a preliminary list of initiatives. That we're still kind of at the end of that phase. Number 2, the question specifically was, we talked about Bermudian jobs, and the question was if non-Bermudian jobs will be a part of this. What I will say is this, that Bermudians can expect to be given first choice. And once I say that, I also like to say to my fellow Bermudians listening, Madam President, that it's important that we are ready. It is important that when these opportunities are presented, that we are ready to grasp them and run with them. So I hope that answers your question, that Bermudians will get priority, they will be given first choice, and we must be ready. Third question, reduction in healthcare, I think. Is that where we went? That actually is a very, very technical question. And I'm not passing the buck, but that's something that the junior minister responsible for health could probably answer better than me. And we could get that at a later time. But yeah, that's a very technical question, but a good one, and we will undertake to look into that at a future time. Madam President?
Thank you, Senator Darrow. Senator Robin Tucker, you have a
Thank you, Madam President, and I thank the junior minister.
supplementary.
I thank the junior minister for his response. I just want to clarify, he hasn't answered my third question, which was what is the areas, the industries, or the specific initiatives, I should say, that is anticipated to create the largest number of jobs. And if I could go ahead and now ask my supplementary questions.
Yes, you can.
I would like to know, how do we qualify significant? Is that 30 jobs or 30,000 jobs? How do we qualify that? And my second supplementary is, the junior minister said that non-Bermudians or implied non-Bermudians will be hired, but that Bermudians will need to be ready. How and what is the plan to ensure that Bermudians understand what is required of them to position themselves to be ready? Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Rebental.
Um, I guess I'll answer that the same way I answered the first one. We're still in phase one, so a lot of those specifics about jobs and how many and the greatest area will be answered in due time. As always, and we say this, you know, where there are no Bermudians qualified for positions. Obviously, non-Bermudians will be brought in. And there are many tech sectors, supporting services that are actually helping the government now. If you'd see some of the press conferences that the ministers are putting out, there are many different agencies and tech companies that are actually they see what's coming, and they are actively and have been actively for a while, you know, putting together projects that will assist with creating jobs. So again, as we kind of move down the line with the different phases of this, many of this and the details will come to fruition. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Darrow and all senators who've put forward your questions. We'll now move on to back to our orders of the, to our agenda, and that is item number 13, the orders of the day. And the first order of the day is consideration of the throne speech with which Her Excellency the Governor was pleased to open the present session of Parliament. And Senator Dr. E.G.V. Peets, Government Leader in the Senate, you have the floor.
Madam President, I move that the Senate now do take under consideration the throne speech with which Her Excellency the Governor was pleased to open the present session of Parliament.
Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. The floor is yours, Senator.
Thank you.
Minister Peets.
Madam President, the throne speech provided some very broad strokes as it relates to what the government plans are for the upcoming year. Madam President, cabinet ministers are in the process of sharing the details of the critical elements of the government's work, as well as the government's strategy for social renewal and economic recovery. Last night, I was pleased to share the goals that we have for the national sports policy yesterday. And I'm looking forward to working with youth sport and recreation, as well as our athletes and our sporting stakeholders as we design a platform for future sporting success. Madam President, governing during this pandemic has not been easy. It's been particularly challenging. Its impact on our economy, as well as our education, as well as our recreational and competitive sports, has been immense. And it may be years to come before we're able to really quantify and qualify exactly the nature and the magnitude of the impact that COVID-19 has had on us as a country. To worsen matters, from a governing point of view, some of the decisions regarding the $185 million guarantee for Caroline Bay, the minimum guarantee revenue for payments through the new report have been real difficult pills for the government to swallow. Madam President, I was of the view that back in 2017, as well as in 2020, those throne speeches were very bold and very, very ambitious. Madam President, I'm of the view again that in the midst of what we've experienced in these last few years, particularly in these last 18 months, this particular government has delivered and have done so in such a way that we've ensured that our people have not gone without support. Madam President, going forward, our mission has not changed. There may have been interruptions, but we remain focused at the core of who we are and what we want to do. And economic recovery is at the core of our plans for Bermuda. And this will promote social renewal and community development, something that I think we desperately need. Madam President, this year's throne speech, I would describe it as practical, as well as straightforward. Madam President, you won't find many grand, for example, new promises from the government, but rather a steady focus on executing the commitments we've made to the people of Bermuda. Madam President, there is an attention, for example, to tourism, as well as with the BEDC, for example, regarding how tourism can work with the BEDC in doing its vital work as it relates to the economic recovery plan. Madam President, from a sporting point of view, the Ministry of Youth, Culture, and Sport recognizes the value of sport to our country and continues to explore avenues that will promote Bermuda as a sporting jurisdiction. And we're actively identifying ways that international sporting events can assist in bringing much needed revenue to our island. Madam President, we have active plans to attract more sporting events, particularly for our amateur and collegiate athletes, to our shores. It's my opinion that this will really enhance the development of our athletes by exposing them to quality international competition and open up more pathways for them to further their education through sports. Madam President, in addition to the information I shared during my press conference last night, I'm pleased to publicly announce today one such event has been planned with the help of Bermuda Soccer International. Next year, the week after Cup match, in August 3rd, the Bermuda Triangle Cup will take place on our shores. This is a preseason tournament for footballers with quality international teams that are amateur and collegiate coming from the United States as well as from Europe. But Madam President, what's really excites me about this particular tournament and what it actually means as it relates to a concept is that it will feature a seminar during that whole entire tournament. We're a seminar where coaches and scouts from top schools and top programs and top academies will meet with athletes and their parents to talk about recruitment, to talk about scholarships, offering our students a concrete pathway for student athletes to be recruited and to continue with their education as well as sports overseas. And Madam President, we have plans to replicate that type of model across sports. So football, cricket, swimming, basketball, golf, these are events that we can plan for our collegiate as well as our amateur athletes, so that these events take place on our shores, bringing economic development, but also providing an opportunity for our local athletes to compete at a high level. Madam President, I was real pleased to dispatch an email to Dan and Flora, particularly after their visit to Bermuda, as well as an email that I sent to them after our throne speech. And one of the questions I put to Flora and Dan was, given what we've indicated in our throne speech, given the fact that you are an elite athlete who has accomplished so much on the world stage, what is it that we can do as a country to begin to put things in place so that we can help other athletes replicate what you have accomplished on your own? And I'm glad this morning, Madam President, that this ministry, particularly myself, were very, very interested in pursuing that conversation, not just with Flora, but with all of our other elite athletes who may be participating in and around this wonderful planet in which we enjoy. So, Madam President, if I may quote the Honorable Premier, he's recently quoted as saying the throne speech spoke to the imperative for change and how changes deferred are now an imperative for survival. We cannot stand still as a government or as a country. We must adapt. We must be bold and collectively take ownership for building a better future for Bermuda. If we wish to see that better future, then our work for change must continue and be unified in effort amongst all Bermudians, end quote. Madam President, these are some of the highlights, as well as some of the goals that this throne speech focuses on. And I'm looking forward to working with this honorable chamber of senators for the betterment of our country going forward. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Minister Peets. Would any other senator care to speak? Senator Ben Smith, Leader of the Opposition in the Senate, you have the floor.
Yes, good morning, Madam President.
Good morning.
So, Madam President, as I was preparing for the reply to the throne speech, after listening to the throne speech that we attended, and then having the opportunity to listen to not only the reply to the throne speech, but the debate that happened in the House last Friday. Madam President, this last year and a bit has changed the way that Bermuda operates. It changed the way that the world operates. The problem is that Bermuda was not in a great place prior to this pandemic coming to our shores. So as I was thinking about what we were going to do, Madam President, it was this throne speech is a plan that the government is going to try to put in place to move the country forward and recover our economy and try to help the people in Bermuda that at this time need significant help. The way the system of politics works is that it is our job to point out certain things within the plan of the government that we think can work. At the same time, we are also going to point out things that we question whether it is the right decision, the right move. And we'll also put forward potential suggestions for how we move forward, but that's what the job is. So, Madam President, one of the things that you have to do as you're going into creating the plan, as the government has done, and creating what the opposition would put forward, you have to take a snapshot of where the country is at present, and then you have to look forward to where the country needs to be 6 months from now, a year from now, 10 years from now. What I've done is realize that that snapshot depends on your view, where you sit at the time that you're taking that snapshot. Because the impact of the pandemic has been different to different people. If you are someone who is invested heavily in the stock market, for instance, the stock market is flourishing, so you're actually doing okay. If you're somebody that worked in IB and you had the ability to continue to do your job, maybe not from your normal office space, but from home and continue to make your same salary, the view that you have of where we are and where we're going is different. But Madam President, if you were working in hospitality or retail, or someone that's been working in the healthcare industry, your view is significantly different of what's happened over the last 18 plus months. So when we are looking at what we see as our snapshot, we have to take into consideration not just our own view, but the views of all of the different people that make up this country. Because sometimes when things are presented that are trying to help a certain section, there are portions of our population that don't understand why we are spending that time, energy, and money in that area. But that's because from their view, they don't see it. One of the things that I think is important for us to do is to start to get the country to open their eyes to other views, not just our own personal view. Because, Madam President, we've discussed it in the last sessions that we have an issue in Bermuda of personal responsibility and also our collective responsibility when it came to how we took care of the health of our population, how we dealt with each other, whether we abide by rules and regulations or whether we don't. So I say that to talk about, to me, the eyes that I've decided to start to look through the multiple views of how we move forward. There are initiatives that the government are putting forward that are positive. Just this morning, you could see that the opposition, the independents, and the government senators together were supportive of the direction that is being put forward. But Madam President, sometimes when we are looking at the broad strokes, you realize that you can't just look at the positive plan that's been put in place. You have to ask, how is that going to be implemented? And the reason I bring that up is because in the past, politicians make statements that they're going to do certain things because they know that that's what the population wants to hear, or at least the largest voter base wants to hear, because that's how politicians continue to move forward. The problem, Madam President, is that the shift that's happened in the world is having an impact on this country that is significant, which means that we have to start to change the way that we have done things up until this point. We can't just assume that we make a broad statement that we're going to fix certain things and this is what we're going to do, and then not follow through with it. We have to make sure that there's accountability. From a political standpoint, accountability happens when you go to an election and the population decides whether they're going to vote for you or not vote for you. That's the right of the population to hold their representative to account. But Madam President, part of what's happened in Bermuda, it's actually something that's happened worldwide, but you're seeing those results in Bermuda, is that a portion of our population has started to switch off to what we are doing. And I bring that up because here we are on a day like today where we've had the throne speech, we've had the throne speech reply, and now it's our opportunity to be part of that debate. How many people are listening to exactly what we are putting forward? Not just the opposition side, the government side also. Are we speaking to the population and what their needs are from what their perception is of what's happening around them? Because, Madam President, when we say that we are going to lower the cost of healthcare, the population doesn't actually pay attention to that part. What they see is their health insurance costs went up. When we talk about how we are going to reduce the cost of energy in Bermuda, that's a debate that we have in this House, in the Senate chamber. What the population sees is their Belco bill has gone up. We've talked about some great initiatives that are coming forward about job opportunities and training and changes that are going to be made within the government. But if you're somebody today that's unemployed and don't know how you're going to pay your bills, that's a different situation for you. If you're a senior that was struggling because the health costs are high and your pension doesn't cover what it used to cover, Madam President, the cost of food in Bermuda has gone up significantly since this pandemic has hit. But you know what, Madam President, we were in a situation where we talked about what we were going to do to try to get our population to eat healthier. So we put in a sugar tax. And the concept was you were going to use that money to help to offset the cost of healthy foods. But I bring it up because that was the concept. In reality, we just collected another tax and the money went into the pot. And now we're in trouble, so we need the money. But our population, when they go to the store, they're having a hard time buying any of the foods that are available. So to talk about the healthy foods, which are expensive, that's the struggle. Madam President, to me, it's the idea that what we have to look at is the prevention of the bad health in our population that leads to the higher cost of health insurance. Because everybody here knows the stats that tell us why we're heading in this direction, and it's not getting better, it's going to get worse. We have a low birth rate, we have an aging population, we have a sick population, we are having a reduction in the amount of people that are in our workforce. Well, all of those things are not pointing indicators towards a lower cost of healthcare. It's going to be a higher cost of healthcare. But that's the conversation that we need to start to have openly with our population of what that is, how we're going to fix it in general terms that the average person understands. Because, Madam President, one of the problems that we have in Bermuda is a lot of our population don't even open their bills. They don't look at the details. They don't look at what they're paying for. So we're overutilizing a lot of the health system, which is causing the cost to go up. This is where I go back to our personal responsibility and the accountability. Madam President, in the throne speech, there's discussion about what we're going to do with education. And the main topic within this throne speech is going to be on the signature schools and what is happening with the signature schools. I've said it before, one of the problems that we have is that across the board, we tend to talk about how bad the public education system is and what the impact is. The truth is, and there is a senator here, a couple of senators here that I know passionately speak to education and know that there are success stories within our public education system, but everybody gets painted with the same brush when we make the negative comments. To me, my suggestion is it's about the prevention plan. When we are assessing our children before they get to school, it's not as simple as doing an assessment. It's the follow-up of the assessment. It's making sure that that young child has the support that is needed. If they came close to needing support, we should be supporting them anyway. Because with a low birth rate, we can't actually allow anybody to fall through the cracks. The other side of this spectrum is that when it comes to the national security side, you have people that are in Westgate, and when they do the analysis and the assessment of the people that are there, you find out that there's a large portion of them that have learning disabilities, that have had childhood trauma. Well, those are things that we should be dealing with at the beginning. Because yes, if we need more support and more experts at that early stage so that we can make sure that our young people are on the path to success from birth to preschool to primary school, so that we don't have students showing up to high school that are having issues with reading and writing and basic skills that are then leading them to feel that they're not part of our country and why they're ending up in the negative position. We can have all of our youth plans. We can have all of our policies in place. But it's the accountability side. And it's not just the accountability of government politicians and the workers and the people that we are going to put in place to try to implement these policies. There's a responsibility to the parents. Because these children don't develop themselves. The behaviors of these children are not developed because they learned it from themselves. They're learning it from the actions of the people around them. The expectation cannot be that we allow our young people to grow up like weeds and we expect something different when they're older. It's just not going to work. So not only do we have to come up with concepts and policies and working groups, as we've discussed today, to try to support them, but we have to have an expectation that the parents do their job. But Madam President, as you get to the point where we are discussing what happens when people start to move away from what is needed as a citizen of Bermuda, we realize that we have some issues that need enforcement. But over the last several years, the funding of the police has been moving down. Well, if the police were funded at too high of a level and you could reduce that funding in a way that then would allow the police to continue to operate, I accept it. Well, Madam President, if you drive on our roads at the moment, you will see that the behavior on our roads has become absolute chaos. People have completely lost the plot on how you behave on roads. So in the throne speech, we talk about we're going to implement CCTV and we're going to try to make some changes from a technology standpoint. But Madam President, we need some old-fashioned police force happening. People see that there is going to be somebody telling you that can't happen. You cannot be overtaking on the inside and outside, driving through red lights, going at excessive speeds, because the result that we're seeing is a climbing death toll on our roads. But Madam President, that death toll on the roads is actually not as high as it could be, because most people in Bermuda will tell you that they've actually prevented the person from getting into the accident because they've driven defensively. But Madam President, back to the accountability. Those individuals have to be accountable for themselves. That you can't behave that way and then have the population have to deal with your 10 weeks in the hospital because you've broken your legs and everything else, and now you can't work. And now the government is going to have to come up with a way to support you. These are all the behaviors. We're all connected. The decisions and the conversations that happen in this chamber are not separated from the behavior of our citizens. Together is how we can move things forward. The government can come up with the best plans. The opposition can put forward suggestions to the government, and all of that can be laid out. But then there has to be accountability on how those actions are going to be implemented. Because, Madam President, most people, when they go to work, they have certain tasks that they have to do. The boss is going to say, these are the projects that we have to accomplish today, this week, this month, this year, because we have targets that we have to reach. Then the management has to try to implement that plan, and then the workers do the job to make sure that that is accomplished. But Madam President, that has to happen across the board. We have to start to hold each other accountable for what we are doing or not doing. Instead of sitting and complaining that person A, isn't doing their job, and nothing changes. What we can't do is expect that people are going to be hired to do a job. As the junior minister, Owen Darrow, said in a comment just recently, Bermudians have to be prepared. It's fine for the government to create 50 jobs. But we have to make sure that we're ready to do them at 100%. Because, Madam President, this shift that's happened, this is a significant shift to the way business and the way countries operate. Not everybody is going to go back to working in the office. It's just a fact, because what's happened is the pandemic sent everybody home and they realized that they could operate. Not only could they operate from their home, but they could operate from different countries. Meetings are happening on Zoom calls and virtual calls. So this idea that we think that just because we are this beautiful country, which we are, that we just put our hand up and people are going to flock to our shores, because that's what we need. We have to understand that the last 18 months have shifted the way everyone operates, and now it's become even harder for us to attract those people to come to our shores, which means that we have to give 100% as a population. We have to put in the effort to change where we are. Because, Madam President, the plans that have been put forward by the government, some of them are really good. Some of them, it's going to take significant changes for them to be implemented. Well, Madam President, the same way that I'm talking about the behavior on the roads, the state of the roads. So we're talking about how we are going to invest in some infrastructure projects. But we're not taking care of our roads. We haven't fixed our bridges. We're having a hard time cutting the grass on the side of the roads. So once again, I talked about the view. So if you're just Mr. and Mrs. Bermuda sitting at home or driving to and from work, and you're seeing the state of the roads, the behavior on the roads, the fact that the grass and the trees is out in the road, what's making you think that things are going to change? Because if we can't do the basics, and we're not holding the people accountable that are supposed to be doing the basics, then what's actually going to change? Because before we move forward in this new setup to attract more people to Bermuda, we have to pull our socks up. Our country's belly is exposed. We are not who we used to be. The country needs to wake up, and they can't expect that we're just going to put plans forward and it's just going to happen with the snap of a finger. It's not how that works. The country, meaning all citizens, everybody together, needs to hold each other accountable. You need to have personal responsibility. We need to have community responsibility. Those changes with the plans can start to move us forward. Madam President, technology is something that most of us will agree has given advancements. But if you look down the road, technology, particularly artificial intelligence, is going to have an impact on workforce. Driverless cars, driverless trucks, that changes job ability. Because what happens is business looks for the most efficient version so that they can cut costs, make sure that they reach their timelines. That means our population needs to start to pay attention, because if you are not giving 100%, there will be someone trying to figure out a way how to replace you. Because, Madam President, as Amazon has been spreading all over the world and retail has been dying, you'll see that in Bermuda, rather than us take care of ourselves and try to figure out a way to make retail in Bermuda flourish because it employs so many Bermudians, we're joining in. We're joining in with the industry that is flowing the money out of the country and not supporting the locals in the country. Is that an indicator that we will quickly do the same thing with the other industries that start to move in that direction? Because that's the danger. We're having a hard time taking care of our people today. If we don't pay attention to what's happening in our country, these changes are happening quickly. The pandemic showed us that. How are we going to change? The government needs to make sure that they're not making decisions based off of, this is what I think the help is. Finish the thought, go all the way to the end. Make sure you have all the data. Make sure you have all the information. So when you make the decision, it's not having a negative impact on your population that you didn't realize that it was going to have. Because, Madam President, within the throne speech, there's usually what happens when you are in a situation like we are now, you're going to try to do some kind of major project to try to get things moving. And the project that looks like it's the one moving forward will be the incinerator. Understanding it could be about $100 million project. Madam President, there's a couple of things in there. One, when you have a project, there is the process of finding out who's going to do the project, how many people are going to be employed by the project. And there are some early gains because, yes, the people that are participating in the project will be employed, they will be making money. Well, Madam President, let's be honest, there's a small group of people that are actually going to make significant money off of that kind of project. That's just the reality of how it works when you do a major project like that. But after the project is over, it's not going to create a bunch of extra jobs. It's an incinerator. We have one now. When we move forward, if anything, it's going to be more efficient. Maybe we need less. But the second thought to me is, how do we maintain the things that we have in Bermuda? Because, Madam President, when you don't have a lot of money, you have to take care of what you have. And it seems that Bermuda has gotten away with not taking care of and maintaining what they have. So what happens is, after a short amount of time, you have to replace it. And now we're spending the money again. That's wasteful. And it doesn't actually help the population to move forward. So the question is, after I believe it's about 25 years for that incinerator, what was the estimated lifespan of that facility? Was all the maintenance marks hit? Because there were millions of dollars that was spent in the last 5-6 years on upgrading that facility. And now here we are, we're moving forward to, we're going to have to replace it. Well, Madam President, it's the same thing that happens in other parts of our country with facilities that are not maintained at the level that they're supposed to on a regular basis. And because of it, we have to spend millions of the taxpayers' dollars to replace them. To me, it's all connected. We have to be preventing. So from healthcare, we have to do a better job of encouraging our population to get healthy from childhood all the way through, because that is how you can lower the overall cost of healthcare. If we do the preventive measures for our young children so that we can make sure they're supported and developed in a right way. And listen, there are things within the education policy that are going to be moving in that direction. I'm not hitting out at that. I'm just saying we need to spend more of our time and focus and energy on how we're protecting the precious ones at the beginning so that we don't have to deal with the result at the end, that is the negative side of it. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to our infrastructure. If we know that there are maintenance programs that have to happen, we need to make sure we're holding people accountable, that they're hitting those targets and doing what needs to be done. And when we have projects in Bermuda, they're costly. You give a timeline that says this is what you need to do. Who's following up to say this project was supposed to take a week and it's taken a month? Because that's the part. Remember, that money that's being spent, that's not the government money. That's not a politician's money. That's the people's money. And every time that we need to get more of that money, it's going to come from taxes. And our population can't afford anything else. So yes, the reality is bleak if you go into the details, but we can't live there. We can't be in the pessimistic world. We have to think positive and optimistic and how we're going to move forward. But moving forward that with a plan needs to make sure that everyone is being held accountable for, one, the plan, two, the implementation of the plan, and then once the plan is done, how we will maintain. So that 10 years from now, we're not replacing things that if we had taken care of them, we shouldn't have to. Madam President, I hope for our country that we can start to move forward in a direction that we'll see a better tomorrow. Because the pandemic isn't the only thing that's caused us to be where we are today. It has made the situation significantly worse. We have people that are out of work because hotels have closed. But Madam President, if we go back over the last 10, 15, 20 years, lots of hotels have been closed. In the same way that we're looking at this Southampton Princess project and everybody's hopeful, Elbow Beach has been sitting rotting for quite some time. And there's other facilities that are the same way. Our issue is we are going to have to start to do things to move that direction. But it's not going to happen easily because the airlift is going in the wrong direction. And the government can throw things that there is a project that the OBA did that didn't work out, and that there are bills that have to get paid because certain targets weren't met for the airport, for instance. Madam President, nobody knew we were going to have a pandemic that was going to wipe out air travel. And the truth is, we're limping along in a direction now that there's even less air travel, even though we're open. What does it look like if we don't have flights on a regular basis? That impacts business. That impacts tourism. That impacts our day-to-day lives. Let's not just throw rocks at each other. We have to come up with the solutions and then work together, collectively. Collective responsibility for the government, collective responsibility for our citizens. We together, Bermudians, non-Bermudians, elected officials, appointed officials, everybody. That's what it's going to take for us to move forward. Plans, as the Minister of Sport laid out, they can sit on a shelf. It's going to be our people that move us forward. And I thank the Minister for driving forward on initiatives for our youth. And I thank the Minister for driving forward initiatives on our sport. But it's going to be interesting to see how we're going to pay for any of this stuff. Because as we try to move forward to a balanced budget and we realize that every time we cut something, something's getting left out. And if what we've been cutting out has meant that the police force is less funded, it's going to be a very difficult task for the Minister of Sport to try to get the initiatives that he wants to put forward on that plate. Because everybody that wants something is going to have somebody else give up something. It's hard work in front of us, but I know that if everybody here rolls up their sleeves, we can move in that direction. Let's hope for a better Bermuda for all of us. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Ben Smith. Would any other senator care to speak? Senator Richardson, you have the floor. Curtis Richardson.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, leaders of the Senate and members of the Senate, the throne speech is concise in its brief complexity and consistent with this government's mandate to continue to provide the public
Thanks.
with what they elected this government to do. The Ministry of National Security recognizes that we are in the digital age, and technology is here to stay, but it's not built to last. Updates to such technological systems are an imperative necessity in order to continue to benefit from the conveniences that are provided through everyday use of our technology. The CCTV system is 10 years old and has shown to have reached its end of use.
Point of order, Madam President.
What is your point of order, Benson? Senator Benson?
Madam President, during this part of the debate, we can't read our speech, and at the moment, the member is reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ben Smith. Senator Richardson, you can, rather than read it directly, you can just
I'll refer to my notes. Thank you, Madam President.
refer to your notes,
Right.
please.
Madam President, the CCTV system has reached its use, its lifespan. It's reached its end. CCTV was once coined the big brother in the sky. This is no doubt will continue to be an essential tool to be used in our law enforcement system observations, security forces. Madam President, CCTV is imperative, a very important tool for security forces. It's vital in its very purpose. I would say that the Ministry of National Security is aware that if anyone is questioning the replacement and upgrades of such a system, then they may be a little bit out of touch with the importance for its replacement and to provide a safer Bermuda. It's a tool with many benefits, Madam President. So I believe that the Ministry of National Security is on the right path in ensuring that the CCTV system is replaced with newer features to assist the law enforcement agencies on the island. Madam President, if you would provide, if you allow me to take a quote from the throne speech, a short quote.
You can make a quote.
Right, Madam President, it's stated in the throne speech that data is the new oil, and Bermuda must ensure that our cybersecurity defenses are adequate to defend our island from dangerous online actors. End quote. Madam President, this quote speaks directly and wholesomely to the importance of the introduction of the new Cybersecurity Act, which the Ministry of National Security has outlined as well in the throne speech. Madam President, leader of the Senate and other members of the Senate, in addition to the Ministry of National Security's progression through the throne speech, the management of the corrections facilities, unfortunately, are now tasked with a major setback in its maintenance of these facilities. One could attest to the lack of industry standards review that was due to be held in 2014 when the One Bermuda Alliance was the government as a cause and reason of effect for this unfortunate position that the government now is tasked and the cost associated with such repairs and upgrades and its maintenance are extended, extensive now. One might also ask that if the cost of building what is desolate in its present state, Cross Island, to erect a temporary facility, I'm wondering if one would question the cost of such a facility, which unfortunately is still sitting unused. If this cost could have been more appropriately used for its close neighboring correctional facility at the Westgate. Now, this government, being a responsible and responsive government, is working with the Bermuda Police Association, the corrections, the Department of Corrections, to get these maintenance issues and matters rectified under the guidelines of what has been provided as being a priority basis. This would indicate a propitious outcome in the efforts that this government is putting forward for the replacement and upgrades of these facilities that are essential to operational purposes. Madam President, Leader of the Senate, and members of the Senate, I would like to thank the staff and members of the Department of Corrections, Customs, the Police Service, the Fire Service, the Ministry of National Security, and the Minister for all of their hard work that ensure a safer Bermuda for all Bermudians on a daily basis. Madam President, if I could shift over to the Ministry of Transportation. Madam President and members of the Senate, might I ask, what would you spend $41 million on? I would like to ask Skyport that very question. As a matter of interest, I would love for the One Bermuda Alliance to tell the Bermuda public how they now feel about the memorandum that was put in place for the minimum revenue guarantee that has spent just under $41 million to date. Has cost, their neighbors and the Bermuda public $41 million to date, just under $41 million. I would like to know what the OBA are doing with that $41 million. If we weren't giving Skyport so much money, then to the very least we would have, the roads will be paved, and we may have new buses. Meanwhile, the government continues to develop strategies in air, ground, and sea modes of transportation to aid in the economic recovery plan. Madam President, unfortunately, we're faced with this burden that the MRG presents this country with, and the Ministry of Transportation is doing all that they can and will continue to do more to ensure that we can remain responsible in this obligation that unfortunately could be seen as very detrimental to our economy. Just in closing, Madam President, I would, and leader of the Senate and members of the Senate, I would like to thank the staff and of the Department of Transportation, the Department of Public Transportation, the staff at Marina Ports, all of the owners and operators of the public service vehicles like the taxis, minibuses, limousines, community service vehicles, and the members of staff of the ministry, the minister himself of transportation, and for all of their hard work through service. to ensure that the fellow citizens are met with the best quality in transportation services. With that said, Madam President, I do appreciate the opportunity to speak really quickly on these matters of the Ministry of National Security and the Ministry of Transport, and would like to encourage the public um, to have faith in the government as we do our part in the economic recovery plan. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Curtis Richardson. And as you've indicated, you are the junior minister for National Security and Transport. So thank you for your submission. Would any other senator care to speak on the throne speech? Now is your opportunity. Senator Robin Tucker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to give voice or to be able to speak my perspectives on this year's throne speech, which does, in some ways, give the general public an idea of what the government intends to do. To use Minister Peetes's words, it's very broad strokes. I would like to start my comments today by just noting a quote that I saw on page 1, which is from British anthropologist Dame Mary Douglas. It says, if you want to change the culture, you have to start by changing the organization. Now, Madam President, one of the top considerations for driving culture change is defining values and behaviors. So if I may, Madam President, I would also like to present another quote, which I think is quite apropos in this
Certainly.
instance. Thank you. The quote's from former Vice Chairman of Deloitte, Jay Sammet. And he said, it's not up to the world to conform to your vision of change. It's up to you to explain the future in terms that those living in the past and present can follow. So, Madam President, desired change, in order for it to happen successfully, the people that are most impacted by that change must understand what's required of them and how it affects them on a foundational level, so that they can align themselves accordingly. And that's the way that we all win. So, Madam President, I would like to say that in reading the throne speech, I did note some really good things. There's a refocus on the creation of affordable and improved healthcare system for all of us. The introduction of the digitized immigration process. Plans to get our young people working. And something near and dear to my heart, which is added protections for our seniors, our vulnerable, and our children. But Madam President, while there are bright sparks, I think that there are also elements that lack the detail that's needed for the people of this country to know in a definitive way the changes that the government intends to make. That will, to use a quote, if I may, from page 1 of the throne speech, that will mitigate the inevitable shocks that will accompany the period following the COVID-19 pandemic. That statement in itself, Madam President, when I read it and when I certainly heard it, it gave me a cause rather to pause. Because that sounds very much like a red flag warning that the government wants to let people know that we're on a cliff and we are in very, very, very difficult times, but yet even more difficult times are coming. So, Madam President, if I may, I'd like to start with my thoughts on healthcare, which again, I think that there is no person that's listening today that would disagree that every person, man, woman, child, should have access to healthcare. But Madam President, my question is, while the government is working to reform healthcare, what are we doing in the interim? What are we doing in the interim to stabilize the costs so that they don't escalate even further? Better yet, is there a way to reduce the cost? Because the system is broken, we all recognize that. But Madam President, while we are trying to achieve an end, we need to be able to have some focus on what we're doing between point A and point B. Now, Madam President, it was mentioned as one of the priorities that there is a focus or intention to increase the population. And in my view, Madam President, we can't even have a conversation about improving the state of healthcare without increasing the population. These people, the working population is not going to magically appear. We have to have immigration reform that leads us to increasing the working population in this country. So I look forward and I'm very hopeful that that will come to fruition quite quickly. Now, Madam President, Senate Leader Smith mentioned the sugar tax, and I would also like to mention that as well. And it's not something that, it's not a point that I would like to say a whole lot about because Senator Smith mentioned it quite well. But I mention it in regard to, again, our steps toward preventative health. That was how it was put to the community. It would be something that would help us make better and healthier choices. That's something that, again, between our point A and our point B to getting to making some changes in the short term to our health plan while we're waiting to get to more permanent and substantive changes. So the sugar tax, I would, again, data-driven. Where's the data that it's working? Because I walk past Marketplace frequently. I walk past their mornings. I see people outside with their, donuts and see people lined up at KFC and people lined up in all kinds of places. And my observation, I don't have the data, and that's what I'm asking for, to know how is it working? Because at the end of the day, we still have a population of obese people. We have people that are willing, I'll put my hand up. I will go and spend $5 for my chocolate. So is it having the intended consequence? We won't know that without the data. But if we focused on those types of things so that while we're working out the health reform, that we can see some substantive changes. Now, I don't know why we haven't seen the data. The sugar tax, as far as I'm aware, came into being in 2018. Plenty of time to be able to collect some information as to the impact that it's having. We need to have targeted preventative care and methods and education, which is what the sugar tax monies was intended to fund or be part of that fund. Heighten education. We have social media and all of that. Let's put some of those things out there. Incentivize the grocers. There was a mention some time ago, but we need to be targeted, because we have some critical things that are going on with our hospitals, with people that are, experiencing all kinds of sicknesses, and we all know what those chronic illnesses are. The drug formulary was also mentioned. That's another thing. We need to expedite the implementation of the drug formulary. I, like so many others, would like to know when are we going to see the reduced costs for those common prescriptions? I can say that I am a little concerned, though, and I've mentioned it in this Senate chamber before, that while there was a pledge in 2020 not to increase seniors' health care premiums, a year later there was one. So when will we be able to see that formulary come into place? So I would have liked to see, as it relates to healthcare, Madam President, more information and detail about the preventative steps that are being taken in the short term while health reform is being worked out. I was very happy, switching to the environment, I was very happy to know that there are measures that are being taken to create a framework to bring about balance to our marine environment and to promote sustainability in our waters. We only have one opportunity to mess up our environment, and we have to make sure that we take all the steps necessary to ensure that we protect our marine environment, our entire environment. We all know that the whole world is going through climate change. And so therefore, we all know that we're on the brink of a climate change disaster. So we've got to, reduce our reliance on fossil fuels and the like. So, Madam President, I was very happy to read that in the Throne speech, and I think that that's a very positive thing and step toward where we're going. The youth employment strategy, we briefly talked about a bit of that earlier today. Again, I am very glad to see that steps are being taken to help our young people to become employed. And in the context of the youth employment strategy, I believe our ages were 18 to 26. And so very happy to hear that. The labor force survey in 2020 did say that our rate of unemployment for that age group was 32%, which we mentioned, but comparatively, it was less than 4% for persons in both the 35 to 44 age groups and the 55 to 64 age groups. That's a significant difference. And certainly we need to be able to question why that is. Is it education? Is it social ills? Is it parenting? Are there things going on in the homes? What is it? Because that's a significant difference. And I think that it's a good step to putting the youth employment strategy in place, and certainly the things that were outlined earlier here today in terms of the 8 initiatives to try to bring about some improvements there. I do want to note, though, that one of the statements was that the inability for our youth to be employed, the lack of opportunity was something that was given as a reason for it. I question whether it's lack of opportunity. I think that, Madam President, we need to have a holistic approach to include providing support for parents. Because again, as was already mentioned here by Senator Smith, there's a level of accountability. And so as parents, we all know, or we should know, what our children are doing. And therefore, I believe that we may be at a time where the government may have to look at accountability measures. For parents. So some of our parents don't have the tools. And I'm certainly not trying to disparage any parent or their parenting style. I am simply saying that some parents do not have the tools in order to raise their children to become contributing, positive members of this community. And I believe that it's incumbent on us individually and us as a community, and as well as part of government strategy to ensure that there are resources in place in order to help parents who need it for the benefit of their children. Seniors and our vulnerable population. Very happy to see that there is going to be added protection in terms of protecting our seniors from financial abuse. I think that's a great thing. But I also think that we still have a very long way to go to support and provide for our seniors. I don't believe that we do enough for our seniors. I don't believe, and I've mentioned it in this Senate chamber before, that our seniors should be bearing the financial burdens that they have to bear. We've all heard the stories about seniors having to choose between food and medicine. And my personal opinion is that seniors have contributed enough by the time they reach their age of maturity. And so I would have liked to see in the throne speech more about what we are doing for our seniors. There was also a brief mention about our children, which was a bit surprising to me. In fact, the quote that, or I should say the statement that was mentioned about our children wasn't hardly as long as the quote that came before it. We have all heard the stories. It's no secret. We've heard stories about, DCFS and other issues that are going on. So there's no need for me to go into that. But what I can say in the throne speech is that we need to be able to show how important our seniors, our children, our vulnerable populations are. And I would have liked to see more targeted, more defined, more committed statements about what we're doing with them. Now, Madam President, I have a general comment, and it actually touches a couple of areas in regard to education and employment. Part of our economic recovery depends on enhancing our tourism product. Now, central to that is a quote, if I may, from page 8 from the throne speech, which says Bermuda must resolve to provide an experience that matches its price point. Our survival in tourism demands that we give visitors what they want and cannot find better delivered elsewhere. There was once upon a time, Madam President, our tourism product, this would have been the absolute definition for where we were in terms of our tourism product and our service delivery. So I say that recognizing the fact that our two signature schools, which will be coming online in September, do not have as part of their signatures tourism and hospitality. I fully recognize that the schools themselves, from what I understand, the schools themselves chose what their signatures should be. However, there hasn't been a whole lot of focus over the last decade plus to encourage our Bermudian children. I know there's been initiatives, so if anybody's busting a gasket, I know that there have been some entities, Take 5 being one of them, who has partnered and has provided some training and all of that. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm meaning on a broad, island-wide level, a targeted focus. And so with that, and with the need to be able to come to a place where we have Bermudians trained and focused and being back in that place of providing optimal service for our visitors. We can't wait until Southampton Princess opens again. We have to do it now. There are so many industries that are operational. There are so many jobs that are operational in Bermuda that a lot of young people don't, some of the older people don't have a clue about. In the hospitality and tourism industry. Some people believe it's just about waiting tables and being a taxi driver and serving drinks. It's so much more than that. It's so much more vast than that. And we have to have those broad exposures in order to regenerate the interest that we had once upon a time. There's lots of money to be made in hospitality.
Senator Tucker, if I may interrupt, it's now 12:30. I'm just wondering if you need, additional time, whether or not we would break for lunch and you could, you've only got
Yes,
5
I'm
minutes,
almost
but
finished.
certainly we will allow you to continue.
Okay, thank you. So, yes. So while there's no focus on hospitality and tourism in the signature schools, I would have liked to have seen and heard that there was some other focus in the meantime while that is being worked out. Because, Madam President, we have to grow our own resources. We have to do it. And I don't think anybody that is thinking about the future will disagree with that. There was once upon a time, again, where some of my Senate colleagues probably weren't born or were very, very young. But there was a time in our hospitality and tourism industry where we built relationships. It wasn't about servitude, it was about service. It was about when the individual, visitor came back and we remembered their name, remembered what they liked to eat and their families and the whole nine. That, in my opinion, Madam President, was our secret sauce to our hospitality industry. It wasn't so much about just the facility, it was about the people. And we must focus on us as our people because that's our key. You can go to any island and get similar. Beautiful beaches everywhere, fabulous, hotels are everywhere. So in conclusion, Madam President, I just want to finish up with a couple of things that I would have liked to see, just two things in particular. One, there was no mention of support for men. I've mentioned, I personally have mentioned before how I think that in this chamber that I think that there is absolute need for that. We need a men's resource center. We have one for women. We must have one for men. I would have liked to see some things targeted around men and their needs. And also, I would have liked to have seen more about mental health issues. I recently attended a virtual conference that spoke to even the prevalence of mental health issues and the impact of eating disorders on teenagers right now. It's happening right here in our wonderful island. So, Madam President, with those thoughts, I certainly didn't expect to speak this long, but I am thankful for being able to provide my perspective. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Robin Tucker. And as I indicated, Senator, it is now 12:33, and we usually break for lunch. And so I am seeking your indulgence that we will break for lunch and return at 2:15. Thank you.